Chapter 17. The Purpose of Life. Why are we here? There are a few ultimate questions that face men and women of every era. Where do we come from? What happens when we die? What is truth? Is there a God or gods? And if so, how does that affect us? But arguably, the biggest question of all is, what is the purpose of life? You and I may think of these in religious terms, but even atheists want a purpose. Some atheists treat their philosophy as if it was a religion, and they preach it with the fervor of street corner evangelists. For communists, the purpose of life is to advance the class struggle and bring about the dictatorship of the proletariat. Saddest of all is the impoverished soul with the bumper sticker that reads, "He who dies with the most toys wins." Perhaps we can start by examining what the purpose of life is not. When I was a Catholic, the Baltimore Catechism told me that God created me to know Him, to love Him, and to serve Him in this world, and to be happy with Him forever in heaven. The devout Muslim learns that the goal of life is submission to the will of Allah and attainment of paradise. The Buddhists say that the purpose of life is to escape life as we know it, to reach nirvana and thus be released from the cycle of reincarnation. None of these visions are attractive to the Asatruar. Loving life in this world. We don't want to submit to God like Christians or Muslims, nor do we want to escape this world like the Buddhists. We like it here. Atheism and materialism, on the other hand, strike us as cold, sad, and ultimately just not true. Many religions, or at least many religious people, seem to think that the purpose of life lies in getting to some other realm. For them, Earth is only a place where we prepare to receive our eternal reward somewhere else. This world is full of tears and torment, they believe, and we're just passing through. Nothing here matters unless it contributes to our salvation. The beauty of a sunset, snow falling silently in the forest, the sacrifices of heroes, even love itself. All these are insignificant things, and we must turn our backs on them as we journey toward an afterlife we have never seen. Ao Tzu emphatically rejects this line of thinking. To us, the purpose of life lies in maximizing wisdom, might, and joy, and in the affirmation of existence. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said it well, "Pagans are those who say yes to life." Historians of religion would classify ours as a world-accepting rather than a world-rejecting faith. We believe life is a blessing, not a curse. We understand that life's challenges and pain are opportunities for us to grow stronger and wiser. Life is good, our lives are good, and the world is good. Because of this world-accepting approach, our priorities are different. We do not need to be saved, nor do we want to dissolve into the absolute, or become a drop of water in an endless sea. Our concerns have always been down-to-earth ones. Before Christianity, European religions dealt with practical needs: a bountiful harvest, healthy babies, victory in battle, justice before the law, stability of the social order, increased wisdom. These concerns are as relevant to us today as they were 1,000 years ago. But salvation? It's just not something we need. Yes, we care about an afterlife. Elsewhere in this book, we discuss this subject in detail. For now, though, it is enough to say that living fully in this world is the best preparation for what happens after death. Being world-accepting in no way detracts from our spiritual goals. Quite the opposite. Our ancestral religion features heights of mystical experience as grand as those of any faith conceived by man. However, this life in this world is where spiritual evolution actually takes place. The SixFold Goals. Earlier, I wrote that life's purpose lies in maximizing wisdom, might, and joy, and in the affirmation of human existence. The SixFold Goals, enumerated by Edward Thorson, elaborate on this idea. I have modified some of his terminology for clarity within the context of this book. The SixFold Goals are: right. Human beings want to live in a society where truth, reason, and justice are as constant as the North Star. The law under which we live must be administered fairly and consistently by honorable men and women. The values and lore of our ancestral culture must be respected and honored. Wisdom. We seek wisdom to understand the universe and everything in it, including ourselves. Our curiosity about the world around us is boundless, from the spinning galaxies on the edge of space and time to the mysteries of our own souls. Matter and energy, men and gods, all are fit subjects for our ceaseless inquiry and exploration. Might. In a brutal world, right and wisdom need the protection that might can give. Strength of arm and heart, the brain and will, gives us the ability to defend that which is ours, and to crush those who threaten us. Might represents the warrior instinct within us, the primeval, unapologetic thrill in power and victory. Prosperity. Wealth is good. Money is the form of energy that makes our modern world function. But prosperity is more than just financial success. It is the increase of all things good and desirable. This includes essentials like food, clothing, and shelter, as well as the luxuries that give us delight. Most important of all is having the right attitude about wealth, the ability to cherish and enjoy it without greed and grasping. Harmonious striving. Our ancestors had a word, frith, which is usually translated as peace. However, it means much more than that. We want a stable environment within the framework of kin and clan in which we can pursue a full life, but we don't want boredom or stagnation. Struggle is necessary for growth. We need dynamic, harmonious striving. Love. We treasure love in its purest and most idealized forms, as well as the earthier manifestations of sexual pleasure, passion, and a general lust for life. All too often, frolic and play are forgotten in the frenzied rush of the daily routine. We seek to set right that loss. Applying the SixFold Goals. Each of us will pursue the goals differently. One person will be more interested in prosperity, another in the experience of love. Still others will seek wisdom as the highest good and undertake the task of spiritual transformation. This variety is natural, and people will tailor the goals to their own needs. However, there are some basic rules. While we will naturally have our favorite, we must not neglect any of the goals. They're all important. The idea is to allow individuals to have balanced, energetic fulfillment in a way that is harmonious and productive. Another rule is this: right and wisdom lead the way. All the others must serve them. Without right and wisdom, might is mere bullying. Love slides into decadence. Prosperity descends to greed, and so forth. Living fully. The SixFold Goals reveal a plan for a full life. Each of us can push these goals to be very high levels, depending on what we want out of life. You can try to become as wise as the greatest sages, or acquire a vast fortune, or live a life of lusty adventure and pleasure to rival that of any character in fiction. You are limited only by your ability and determination. Most of us will settle for a life that is satisfying and successful without necessarily being spectacular. Whether your objectives are modest or grandiose, however, the choice is yours. There's no predestined fate setting your limits, and no God's will to which your own sovereignty must be subordinated. The SixFold Goals are a life-affirming declaration of limitless possibilities for each of us. But their application does not stop there, for we do not live in a vacuum. There is always the dynamic balance between the individual and the group. That balance lies in knowing what things we owe to ourselves and what we owe to others. Things we owe ourselves. We owe ourselves the ever-increasing wisdom that comes from living life to the fullest. It can be cosmic wisdom or folksy wisdom, and it can be humble or sublime. But in any form, it is the treasure that takes life to its summit. We owe ourselves strength of body, mind, and spirit that allows us to protect ourselves and those who are dear to us. The weak will always be targets. Only when we are secure in our strength, only when we have the power to choose, can we afford to extend a hand in friendship to others. We owe ourselves joy, prosperity, love, and pleasure. Life is good, and we should experience that goodness every day, in one form or another. The idea that we should feel guilty for wealth or for enjoying life is entirely alien to Asatru. Our potential for wisdom, strength, and joy is vaster than we can imagine. We have the delightful duty of exploring these endless possibilities. Things we owe the community. In Asatru, we aim to live productive, honorable, and happy lives. These three things are, of course, related. When we are productive and self-fulfilled, carrying out our responsibilities to others and to ourselves, we are most likely to find that elusive quality called happiness. The best life is neither one of narrow self-absorption on the one hand, nor a life that ignores our own needs on the other. There must be balance between our interests and those of the communities of which we are a part. What are these communities, and what do we owe them? To our ancestors, we owe remembrance, respect, and loyalty. From them we received a cultural heritage, a lineage, and a family name. It is our duty to never bring shame to any of these. Instead, we should try to add to their glory by our own deeds. To our living family, we owe loyalty. We should strive to get along with family, even when it is difficult. Sometimes we cannot honestly claim to love all our kin, but the least we can do is honor the blood that flows through their veins by performing our duties in regard to them. To our descendants, we owe the chance to exist. Not everyone can have children for all sorts of reasons, but passing on the torch of life to the next generation is the ideal. In some historical Indo-European societies, the firstborn child was considered to be the debt owed to the ancestors in return for the gift of life. Our descendants are the future, and we must do everything possible to ensure that they thrive and fulfill the highest destiny of which they are capable. To all men and women descended from the indigenous tribes of Europe, we owe brotherhood. They are our greater family. Unfortunately, this family has dwindled to about 8% of the Earth's population, and continues to shrink not only as a percentage of the whole, but also in absolute numbers. There are fewer of us today than there were yesterday. For our own sake, we need to understand our common roots and to stand beside each other. To all men and women on earth, we owe honorable behavior, the right to work out their own destiny, and the understanding that their ancestral way is as holy to them as ours is to us. Their gods live in them as our gods live in us. Let us respect each other and the holiness within us. To the earth itself we owe love and care. Our lore considers her a goddess, sometimes identified with Frigga, other times with Nerthus or with Jord. She is our mother, and our neglect of the earth and all her living systems has brought us to the brink of disaster. None of us working alone can reverse the damage that has been done, but every one of us can do his or her part. It is our moral duty to refuse to willingly participate in the destruction of life on this planet. To the gods and goddesses themselves, we owe respect and awe, but not slavish submission. We are like them in essence, but the difference in magnitude between the holy powers and ourselves should keep us from treating them trivially or with too much familiarity. Furthermore, Asatruar have a sacred duty to ceremonially observe the turning of the seasons and other holy days, for this makes us participants in the cosmic drama and brings the world of humankind and the divine world into harmony. The purpose of life, a summary. The purpose of life is to experience ever greater right, wisdom, and might, prosperity, harmonious striving, and love, now and always. Happiness comes to us when we do our duty to others, while at the same time looking after our own needs and promoting our own growth. Life is an open-ended adventure, a quest that challenges us and forces us to the highest level of greatness we are capable of attaining. The purpose of life, in short, is to live in the fullest, most vigorous, and most expansive meaning of the word.